welcome, Tracey, once again. I think this is your second time on the live extravaganza. You've been up to a lot of stuff since we
I've
last
been busy.
talked. You've been a busy
Yeah, I
lady.
want to thank you. Thank you for having me. And I promise not to try and do an Australian accent this time.
Yeah, don't do that.
The last year and a half, I think it's been a year and a half since we last spoke, has been pretty exciting, pretty busy. I'm Tracey Johnson. I own cheeseneeds.com, which is a cheesemaking supply company for home cheesemakers and small creameries, much like little green workshops in Australia, your shop there.
Yep.
I'm also one of the admin at Learn to Make Cheese, which is now officially the biggest group on the internet for cheesemakers.
Nice.
We've recently surpassed pretty much everybody else. There's nobody on the internet that's a bigger group. And also, we are the friendliest group. I think I've heard you say many times.
Yes, you are. You are. I have seen no shenanigans going on in that group. And the admins, Rachel, Heather, yourself, are there any? There's only three, right?
Yes. There's Cheddar and Daria. Cheddar started the group, and Daria's kind of a back of house. She deals with, rules and just she's sort of behind the scenes. She doesn't like the spotlight too much. So, there's the five of us working.
Five now. That is massive, and you would really do need those five to curb. How many? Let me start. So. When people sign up for the Facebook group, because there's a process you got to go through, right?
Oh, yeah.
What's the percentage of rejections you get that you reject not into the group?
About a third. About a third of the accounts that apply to join group don't get in because they're either a bot or they're a scammer. Occasionally, people have offensive user photographs. Now, if you can swear as much as you like on your own page in your own time, that's perfectly fine, but we set group up so that it's child friendly, so that if you're 13 or above and you're allowed to be on Facebook, then you can be in our group, you can learn safely, and you won't be confronted with language which is offensive. So anybody whose profile picture is offensive, we will, if it's obvious they're really into cheese or they're really into foodie, that they're our people, I will message them and say, I'm not asking you to change your profile picture, but I'm not going to let you in if you don't. So just we root out people who are obviously in it for self-promotion. If people are going to come into group and they're going to post their own YouTube videos or they're going to post their own content on their own Instagram, you don't get to do that, because the people we allow to do that, people like you, myself, Cheese 52, these people have worked in group. They have helped in group for a long enough period of time that we're like, okay, you've given, so now you may receive. We've got 48,000 members. And about half of those people tune in at least once a week.
That's great to see so much activity.
Yeah.
No, that's really good.
Some groups you let in everybody. You don't ask questions. You just let people in. You get spam and spam and spam. And
they're just chaos.
It's tedious. It is. Yeah. And in the 8 years that I've been an admin, and the last 2 years I've been lead admin, but in the 8 years I've been admin, there have been 2 instances of porn posted on the page, and it was gone within half an hour. We just, we put 3 or 4 hours a day in each. Yeah. And this is all voluntary. Nobody gets paid for this.
Yeah.
So it's a fabulous group of admin, and I couldn't do this on my own. Without Cheddar, I wouldn't even know anything about making cheese. So it's a collaborative group effort, and we all do this for free. That's the point. We've got this knowledge, we've accrued this knowledge, and we're trying to increase this knowledge, but also we're trying to make sure that it gets to the people who need it, but for free.
Yeah, for sure. I often refer people to that Facebook group because I'm only one person, unfortunately, and I get at least 20 emails a day of people asking me questions about cheese, and I just don't have the time. I'm trying to, I'm stuck in the middle of trying to produce the next video and the next cheese creation, and I try to do as much Q&A as we can on shows like this. So I refer people to you guys and jump in occasionally. But yeah, the admins are amazing, and the community over there is very similar. In fact, it's probably the same people that are in the community here. There's a lot of crossover, right?
Yeah. And it's great. And every Saturday, because normally I'm teaching on a weekend, I will teach the Friday night. I'll do a Parmesan class because it's only 4 hours. And then the Saturday, I generally do a longer cheese like cheddar. And then the Sunday, again, I'll do a shorter cheese because I'm knackered by then.
Yeah.
And I'll do like a feta or a Guido's or a Caffili. So my Saturday class almost always finishes about 20 minutes before your live stream. So my little alarm goes off. I've got the Man Down Under on my phone, and it reminds me it's time to tune in and check out. The
Man Down Under. That's classic. By Men at Work, by the way.
Indeed.
That song.
Yes. Indeed. 80s classic.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. In fact, they got sued for that song because the flute section of that song. Yeah, that's actually Old Man Kookaburra is the song. It's a classic folk song here in Australia, and they actually stole that. Well, they didn't realize they did it, but the notes are exactly the same, and they got part of their revenue taken away. Anyway, that's just a aside. There you go. But yeah, the Man Down Under, that's me. Nice. So the Facebook group is going very strong, and you mentioned that you're doing 3 workshops in a weekend. That is crazy. How do you manage it just physically?
Well, I am getting old. I gotta say, I am feeling it. I really am. But I get the energy from teaching because you know yourself when you're holding a class and people are excited and they're enthusiastic and they're like, oh my God, I never realized this was so easy and this is great fun and I can't wait to do this with my girlfriends or my son or whatever. Yeah. And that sort of energizes me for sure. But I teach a cheese board class as well. So if you don't want to make cheese, you can just make cheese pretty.
Right.
Which I've actually got that online now, finally managed to get an online class so that people can take it from anywhere.
Nice.
But yeah, the in-person classes, I've taught 1,100 people in the last 18 months, and that's a town of 72,000.
That's crazy.
So I'm knocking on nearly 2% of the entire population, not just the adult population, the entire population. So.
Well, there'll be a whole town of cheese people, curd nerds. It's crazy.
You'd be amazed. The cheese game in this town was not good when I got here. In the last 2 years, it's leveled up. We can buy more Brie, we can buy burrata. I've taught several of the people who work in these cheese places, and they're hungry for more. They're looking for better cheeses. They're looking for different types now. So it's great. It's only good if people have access to more cheese.
That's right. So the cheese culture has increased because you've taught them how to make their own cheese, and they've gone, oh, what else? What else is out there?
Yeah, this tastes so much better. Why am I buying this boring orange stuff? Because all the stuff in Canadian supermarkets is your traditional sort of orange vac wrapped brick of cheese. And I mean, you can live on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same as the 1 kilo blocks we get at our supermarkets, the so-called tasty cheddar. It's not that. It's not that tasty, and it doesn't taste like cheddar. If you've made cheddar yourself, or you've had, West Country farmhouse cheddar, the real stuff that's been cloth banded, it's just mind-blowing. It's just amazing.
Well, I've been to Cheddar, actually. They let me open a 23 kilo cave age 12 month. This thing was huge.
I saw that photo.
Yeah, she gave me a cheese dryer, and she's like, do you know what one of these is? I said, yeah, I've got them in my shop.
Yeah.
Oh, it's super cool. Yeah, so I've been all over the place this year. From never having been to the States before, I've now been there 3 times in the space of a year.
Right. Do you want me to show you some photos? I got some photos. Hang on. Yes. Now, there may be a slight delay for you. Let's have a look. Oops, that's not a photo. Hang on. Oh, technology. Right, there we go. So in a second, you should see a picture of Tracey with Lisa from Cheese 52. So can you see that yet?
In October. No, I can't see it yet, but I know the picture well.
Right.
This was in October. Lisa just picked me up at the airport in Boise.
Right.
Which Boise is 3 flights from me.
Goodness me.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was that far.
No, it isn't. It's really not. You could probably drive it in less time than it takes to fly and wait and fly and wait and fly and wait. So I live in Prince George, which is literally the geographical centre of British Columbia, which is a province in Canada on the western side.
Yep.
As you may know, Canada is the second biggest country in the world. So going anywhere here is very similar to going anywhere in Australia. You know, you leave one town and there's nothing for 3 days.
Yeah.
You know, so coming from England, I grew up in Winchester, which is a city. And as soon as you leave Winchester City, you're in Southampton, which I know is where your lovely wife comes from.
Yes.
So there is no in between. There's very little sort of countryside unless you're out in the countryside. So I've learned that, you know, everything in Canada is just a lot bigger. So it's fine.
Yes.
Every time you fly, you have to go through Vancouver. And from Vancouver, you can get pretty much anywhere.
Anywhere, yeah.
But, yeah, so I did Prince George to Vancouver, Vancouver to Seattle, which is literally 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then Seattle to Boise. But I had a 3-hour layover in both airports. So it took me the whole day
That's
to get
crazy.
there.
So
But
what
it's
did you
worth
what did you do when you visited Lisa? Did you make cheese? Is there a picture of that?
We did make a cheese, yeah. I've got a video coming out pretty soon.
Oh, it's not. I don't have a photo.
No, not yet.
Right.
She's just finishing off the taste test because obviously I can't bring the cheese back across the border because it's a bloomy rind. We made camembert.
Ah, right. Yep. Yep.
So in one day we made a camembert, and then because they have raw milk in Boise, we were able to go to a supermarket and buy raw milk. And she said to me, "This is the raw milk I always use. It's a place called Cloverleaf Creamery." And she said, "And tomorrow I've got an appointment for us booked to go and meet the guy at Cloverleaf."
Right.
So day one, we made our cheese. We made a camembert. Day two, we went out and hung out with Bill. So I've got a whole bunch of footage that I'm furiously trying to get edited. But as you know, editing, it takes a while.
It does. If you want to do it well, it takes a while. Yeah, and that's why
and I don't have an appropriate child to foist it off on.
I was just about to say that. He's actually been sick with COVID, and he's got long COVID now, so he's not doing. No, I know. And if he's watching this, shout out to Ben, who's
I hope you feel better soon, Ben.
Yes, he's starting to show some signs of improvement. So this is his second bout of COVID, and then he got long COVID after that, so it's no good. But thankfully, Kim and I never caught it. So
yeah, I've only had it once, and you can keep it. I don't want it again.
Yeah. Now you went to New York as well, is that right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So I've never actually met Heather or Rachel in person before.
Right. Let me see if I can find them.
Awesome.
Good-looking roosters. Hang on. Where is it? There we go.
We were invited to a meeting of the Milkmaids, which is a conference of women in cheese, essentially. And it was in New York State, which is just, I mean, it's not near where Rachel lives. She's in Buffalo, but you know, it's in the same province.
Right. State.
So yeah, it's state. Sorry. We all went to meeting of the Milkmaids, and that was great. That was fabulous. We got to meet a whole bunch of people from the cheese industry, a lot of mongers, a lot of makers, a couple of other, people from Learn to Make Cheese were there as well. So that was cool. And then, well, I'm not going to fly all the way to New York, which is the opposite side of another country, and then just spend a day. So we had 3.5 days in New York, where we stayed in a hotel, just like a stone's throw from Times Square. So the picture that you've got of the three of us is Heather, Rachel, and I at Times Square, and this was actually just after midnight.
Oh goodness! You're out late partying.
Yeah, but we went on a boat cruise, and Rachel's done it a million times, but I've never been there before, and Heather had never done it before as well. And I wanted to go and see the Statue of Liberty. It's one of the things you see.
Yes, of course.
So we went out. By the time that got back, then we had some dinner and some drinks, and it was like, now is the best time to see Times Square at night, all lit up, and it was just absolutely fabulous. It was heaving with people, but it didn't feel unsafe. You weren't sort of clutching your purse and worrying about getting your phone lifted and stuff. So yeah,
but it's not a square, is it?
No, it's not at all. It's an intersection of about 6 different streets. And trying to find any one picture that shows you're in Times Square yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, it's incredible. Now, while you were there, did you go to Murray's The Cheese People?
Oh, yes, we did. We
Right.
had a behind
Here's a
the scenes
picture.
tour.
Keep talking.
Yeah. We had a behind the scenes tour. Rachel knows everybody. Rachel
Right.
got us in to meet Josh Windsor, the affineur, if you're on Instagram.
Right.
And he's the head affineur at Murray's Caves in New York, which is one of the most prestigious affination jobs in the world, pretty much,
Right.
gotta be.
Yeah.
You know, we had a private tour around the 4 caves that they have, which aren't actually caves, they're buildings, but they're temperature controlled.
Yeah.
They have one for alpine, they have one for bloomies. And I'm standing there and I'm like, people at home are trying to keep all these in one little dorm fridge.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we rock, making
Too
it
right.
work under those circumstances. We rock. But it was fabulous to hear him speak. You know, he knows everything about the rind of a cheese.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting to talk to.
It's amazing that in the cheese industry, so there's so many different jobs. So there's, you know, milking the cows and or the goats or the sheep or what have you, and then there's making the cheese, and then there's a full blown job of affineur, you know, to mature the cheese, which is in these sorts of places, it's a full blown job every single day. So I don't know if he's actually made cheese himself, but he knows how to mature a good cheese. So
yeah,
no, it's good. You certainly, well, I suppose
and
you'd
then
have to know the process. Yeah, it's the third bit, the public facing bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because if nobody's telling you the story of that cheese is going to sit where it is. Unless you've heard of it and you go in looking for it, you're not gonna, you know. I have on my channel I have a playlist called Trust Your Monger, where I just interview cheesemongers, and I'm like, what have you got that's new? What's exciting you right now? You know, what are you excited about? And they always have stories to tell. It's fabulous.
Yeah, I've been watching some of those. They are really good. And I like the new segment that you're doing on your channel, This Week in Cheese. Is that that's a new thing, right?
It is, yes. Yeah, after a year and a half on YouTube, I'm still not monetized. So I went back over the notes that you gave me when I first started out. Again, thank you for that.
That's all right.
And it kind of, I went back over and I'm like, is there anything that he told me to do that I'm not doing? And one of the things you said was post consistently once a week, or, you know, on a regular basis, so people know when to expect your content. And I thought, okay, fine, suck it up, because I am doing all of the other jobs. I am milking the goats. You know, I've just got in from milking my goats. And I've got the milk in my sous vide right now, LT. And I make the cheeses and I do the affination, and I have to try and find somewhere to put all of this cheese because I can't eat all of the cheese.
Yeah. How many lady goats have you got?
I've got 4 adults and 3 babies, but the babies are now of breeding age. I waited until they were all old enough. I mean, I call them babies. They're 7 months old. They're basically teenagers from a goat point of view. So we've just got the buck. Mr. Fraser has just arrived.
I saw that.
I've never seen anything so funny in my life. I've never the way that goats flirt is ridiculous. He comes up to her and he'll snooze on her, and snort. Yeah. And then he'll start flapping his tongue around. And it's just like, I'm glad I'm not a goat.
It's like, just get on with it.
Well, they do, unfortunately, for their, without being indelicate, it doesn't take him long, let's put it that way. That's cool. So we're lined up for 4 babies early May, hopefully.
Yeah. That is fantastic. And I'm just amazed you're able to produce that weekly segment. And it doesn't really matter how long it is, as long as it's it's informative, and it is, which is great. So you cover different topics, including your own herd, in that segment. So it's really good. Well done, mate. And hopefully you'll be monetized before you know it.
We'll keep on plugging away.
So all those people watching the stream right now, go over to Tracey's channel after this and go and subscribe, because she needs it. She needs the YouTube monies like we all do.
Now. Yes.
Yeah. That way, maybe.
I do have merch now, so
yes, I can see you're wearing it.
Into the merch.
Where's mine? Yeah. I lost it. No, well done. Yeah. You got to have some merch. So it's a little bit more revenue. It's not a heck of a lot, but yeah, it's always good.
It's passive though, so it just kind of ticks over, which
Yeah,
is really handy.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
but I mean, the store is doing great. In the first year, I tripled the income from Cheddars last year because I
Yeah,
bought the store in February last year. So in the first year, I tripled it. This year, I am on track to have doubled it again. So
nice.
it's all those classes. The classes just keep selling and selling.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, our
Really help.
just talking a little bit of business for a second. Our Little Ring Workshops is well, we're struggling a little bit because over here we're having a cost of living crisis. That
Yeah, same.
yeah, everything's going up, and people's wages just aren't matching it, and people have cut right back on discretionary spending. So our sales have been half of what they are since last year. But because we're not doing the workshops, we stopped doing that
COVID, yeah.
because of COVID, and now we've decided to go back and start teaching workshops next year. So not only cheese, I've got a couple of cheese courses lined up where people will they'll make 3 cheeses for each session, all quick ones.
Yeah.
And that's easy. It gets them interested before they go on to make like harder cheeses and stuff like that, as you well know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be doing probably one of those every weekend. But that's going to cut into video production as well. So I've got to, unfortunately, at this stage, to keep the roof over our heads, we've got to chase the money. So
Yeah. Well, the
and
other thing is you have the Curd Nerd Academy, which you don't plug nearly as often as you should.
no, I
You
should. I
can learn
should.
big
We had one person sign up this week, but yeah, I don't plug it as much as I do on the live streams. But the problem is we have a limited audience.
Yeah.
They're the same ladies and gentlemen, Curd Nerd
And
community
they
that turn
already
up,
love you.
and they've already done the course. Probably a lot of them have. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, and yeah, I should plug it during the normal videos, but I plug products as well. So and that's the cheese products that are actually keeping us afloat. So
Yeah.
that's the good thing. So
That's
yeah,
the bread and butter for sure. I mean, I sell kits. I do this thing with the local radio here. They have a thing called My Half Price Deals now. So every quarter, they will have one day where you offer the customer a thing at half price.
yeah.
So they get it for half price. You don't get any of the money for the thing. So you're essentially donating the kit. But instead, you get advertising on the radio for the full value of the amount of the kit.
All right.
So I end up with a couple of grand's worth of advertising for about $300 worth of wholesale cost to me. And it introduces me to new customers who would never have normally thought, oh, I'll buy a cheese kit.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of these people then cycle back and say, actually, I don't want to try this on my own. I'm going to come to a class. So they get a discount if they've already bought the kit because I don't need to provide them with another kit.
Yeah, yeah.
And it does bring a lot of people through the door. So
No, that is good. So yeah, I'm hoping to get the same sort of traction with our workshops. Kim's going to be teaching about 2 or 3 of them, which are all on the crafty, soapy, bath bomby sort of side, which is her
Nice.
forte, and I'll be doing the cheesy ones. So we've already hooked up with our local community centre. They're open arms to welcome us back. They couldn't get enough of us last time, obviously. So anyway,
Yeah,
back to
my vendors love it.
yeah. Back to cheese. I've got a photo here of this is a cheese and beer pairing thing. Can you step us through what's going on here?
Yeah, so in my town, there's a winery and there is a couple of distilleries. And I approached the distillery and I said to them, look, I've done a class at the winery where I did a cheese board creation evening. You come along, I teach you how to make a board, how we cut the different cheeses differently and why, the science behind what you pair your cheeses with on the board and all that kind of stuff. I said, but that's a class.
Yeah.
And that's a bit more highbrow. People have to actually learn something and put effort in. How about we just have people turn up, eat stuff that I've laid out for them, drink some beers that you've laid out for them that we've paired carefully together, and just learn a tiny little bit about all of these cheeses. I'll compare. You stand there and answer any questions about beer and look pretty. And it was fabulous. It was a really great night.
Oh, sounds fantastic. So it's like so you did the emceeing basically of the event. So Yeah, that beer looks amazing. And
Yeah, they've
it's
got
not
so
even
many.
midday for me yet. It's getting close. But yeah, and the cheeses. So were these commercial bought cheeses or ones you made yourself? It would have been difficult. Or,
Almost. Yeah, almost all of them were commercially bought. I bought the good stuff. You know, we had a 2-year-old cheddar, we had a smoked Gouda.
yeah,
There's a real French Roquefort on there,
nice,
AOP. And the last cheese was a yesterday's.
nice,
I managed to get permission to actually use one of my cheeses in a commercial setting because I made it in a commercial kitchen,
right,
aged it in a commercial kitchen,
yep,
and portioned it in a commercial kitchen. So with my
right.
food, I was allowed to legally give that cheese to people.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah. So again, that's something I can do a lot more of with yesterday's because it's ready the next day. You know, I
Hmm.
literally went in on the Wednesday. We had the evening on the Saturday. And it just, yeah, because it doesn't have to age so long because the laws in BC, you have to age the cheese in the commercial kitchen. You can't make it and take it home. You have to age it there as well.
Yeah,
So this is the community kitchen that I use. I can't leave like a fridge full of cheese in there.
somebody
And if
ate
I
it
did,
all.
yeah, well, if I did, I don't know that nobody's hampered with it in the
Yeah.
meantime. So it just kind of, yeah, yesterday's is handy.
Hmm. Yeah, indeed. It's a fantastic cheese, and everybody who's watched your video and then watched my video as well have gone on to make it, and they've all said early on it's not as tasty as they would expect, and that's fine. We say that, right?
Yeah,
It's a
it's
cheese
three
that,
to 4 days.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So about 4 days, and the lipase kicks in, and it's all good. And it's a very tasty little hard Italian cheese. So yeah, it's really nice, well worth making. But congratulations on the beer and cheese. That's a session that's mutually beneficial to not only your business, because then people will go, oh, that's cheese. I can learn how to make it from Tracey. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's really good.
And the session that we had, the tasting session beforehand, because I took in a bunch of cheeses and what they go with. And
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, what would you pair with this? You know, the books all say you should pair this with a light IPA. I don't know an awful lot about beer. I drink
yeah,
Budweiser.
yeah, yeah.
So you generally
Right.
don't say that word in a craft brewery. But I don't know a lot about, you know, highbrow beer. But the head brewer that I was talking to, Tyson, came in and he's like, okay, I know exactly what goes with that. I know exactly what goes with that. He was right every single time. It was
Good.
fabulous. Really, really good.
Nice. Now, you have been making cheese outdoors as well, which
Yeah.
I tried once and the flies got a bit too chaotic. So I put up a picture of a spoonful of curd from
Hmm.
a big curd pot, and there's like a farmhouse or something going on
Yeah.
there. Talk us through that.
Yeah. So this is Hubble Homestead. About once a month throughout the season, I go out to Hubble Homestead. I make cheese on a gas barbecue in a tent, in a field with no running water, dressed as a Puritan.
Right.
Um, because they pay me for that. In the
Nice.
meantime, I also bring my wares and I have kits and stuff people can buy if they're interested. Generally, I make feta when I'm out there because it's pretty bulletproof.
Yeah.
You know, we did have a monsoon come through on Canada Day, at which point my milk had set in the pot, wasn't quite ready to cut yet, but I'm underneath a metal, one of those pop-up tent
Yep.
things.
Yep.
And the safety girl came out and she's like, yeah, you have to come inside the building now. And I'm like, well, I can't leave my
I
cheese.
can't leave my
So
curds.
I grabbed the pot and I very, very carefully, and I'm wearing a tent dress,
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way. It goes to the ground. I don't wear skirts ever. I hate them. But in the spirit of the thing, grabbing this thing and I got it into the county store that they've got there. They put me right next to it so my Wi-Fi would work so that I
Yeah.
could use debit and credit payment, which isn't very technological appropriate, but whatevs. And I'm standing there and the building is full of about 50 people. Now, I've only seen half of your studio, but the bit of your studio I can see right now is roughly the same size as the main shop at Hubble. So
Lovely. Lots of people in it then.
pretty tightly packed, and there's stairs that go up the back. So ever the showman, I'd brought my curd knife with me. I banged on the side of the pot to get people's attention.
And cut the
Ladies and
curds.
gentlemen, the curd cutting will begin in 5 minutes.
Nice.
That
Well
cheese
done.
turned out.
Yeah. Fantastic. And you had a captive audience, really?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was fabulous. Yeah. And then the lightning stopped and, my tent hadn't blown away, which is good.
Nice.
And then we just got back to carrying on, because that's what farmers and homesteaders do. You don't
Yeah.
take day off sick. You don't have bad weather.
Yes.
I've got 4 inches of snow out there today. It's the first real snow of the winter. And I've still got to go out and milk my goats.
Yeah, that's right. They
you
don't milk
can't not.
themselves.
No.
No, and their udders get very toit. So, yes. All right. So there was a cheese somewhere. There's a picture of a cheese.
I do occasionally make cheese still.
Yes, you do. You do
Every
make
other day.
cheese. There you go. So that's a red Leicester hiding underneath a cloth band. How do you find cloth banding those styles of cheese?
Nerve-wracking. It's terrifying. Rachel keeps telling me, hold your nerve. It's fine. It's supposed to do that. The mold's only on the outside. I've done it. I think this is probably my 7th Clothbound.
Yeah.
But I had one spectacular failure, which again, there's a video on my YouTube of that. I opened this Clothbound cheese and it had cracked in the middle like a giant starfish, and foliage mold had gotten in.
Oh.
And everybody's commenting, no, it's fine, it's just blue mold. And I'm like, no, if you don't put blue mold in a cheese and it's not sitting right next to a blue molded cheese that has got Penroke in it, don't risk it, because it's probably not Penroke.
Yeah, it's probably something other wild blue mold that could be toxic. You don't know.
Yeah, you could smell it. It smelled like, if you've ever found satsumas or tangerine oranges in your
and they have that blue-green mold. Yep.
They've got that. It had that aroma to it, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
No, not worth it.
Throw it away. Yeah, even the goats can't eat it.
No. But other than that, I've had successes with all of my other Clothbounds. So at least it's a few and far between we have mistakes.
Yeah, I've done a couple, and they've all seemed to turn out all right. The first one was a bit iffy. It had a soft spot underneath the cloth, so I cut it all off and got down to at least a couple of centimeters between that and the soft part, and then vacuum packed it, and it turned out fantastic. So, but there was no
really elevate the flavor though. It's worth it for the flavor. If you can put the effort in, it is worth it for the flavor.
Yeah, definitely. Cloth banding, give it a go, even if it's only once, I reckon.
Yeah, and I mean, it is frightening. You are going to sit there and watch mold grow on your cheese and brush it off, and watch it grow and brush it off. And
yeah, it's a science experiment, that's for sure. Yeah. Now, you recently won an award in your local town. Your business, where does it say runner-up?
I was a finalist.
Oh, right. Okay. So I've got the picture up there.
Yeah, I was nominated by a lot of people, actually, for the Business Person of the Year. In fact, they told me I got more nominations than anybody's ever had before.
Well done.
That's really nice, because that says to me my customers are happy with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they nominated me because of that. So that was the takeaway for me. Obviously, I didn't win it. I've only been in business for a year. This is only my second or my first full year of business.
Yeah.
And to be a finalist in that group of people was amazing. I was really happy. The other one was marketing and promotional. And I have no clue what I'm doing with marketing and promotional. I'm winging it, and it seems to be working, because I've got a massive amount of followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
The Facebook is picking up. The YouTube is picking up. People are starting to realize I'm here now, and they can learn from me, which is great.
And the workshops actually help spread the word of mouth. And we found that when we were doing workshops, we get customers from a lot of local customers, which we don't usually get, because we're shipping to the other side of the country, because they don't have cheese making supplies. But we're getting a lot of locals, especially for the stuff that Kim maintains in the shop. A lot less in the cheese side, but word of mouth is one of the marketing tools that people just don't use enough, or not use enough. It's hard to do it, but it's a natural thing that happens, and people don't realize that, yep, that's part of marketing, you know, showing your face in public.
That's why you've got to make sure that they have fun in class. As I said, 1,100 people, no one's ever gone home without a cheese from my classes, and I am knocking wood at the moment. So every class I make a cheese as well, just in case somebody doesn't end up with a cheese, they can take mine home and they can age it.
Yeah.
And I have follow-up videos after class. So by the time they get home, in their messenger box, they already know how to flip the cheese, how to air dry the cheese, when to vacuum seal the cheese. I've got all those videos queued up for them.
Tell you what, you are amazing. You're an amazing lady.
Well, because they're only there for 5 hours, but it's a 12-hour, 18-hour process. So send them home with what they need for after, and that helps them. And it also minimizes the amount of questions I get in my inbox at 4 o'clock in the evening when I've been teaching all weekend. What was I supposed to do with this next? Well,
it's the last thing you want to do. Yeah. Mate, that's fantastic. Can I steal that idea?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, done. Stolen. Right.
Yeah, it's an exchange. You know, you give information, I give information, everybody gets information.
Everybody loves the information. Yeah, that's fantastic. What was I going to say? There was something else. Now, not only have you been honing your cheese making skills and that sort of stuff, you've been doing a lot of education over the last 18 months or so, maybe a little bit longer.
Last year I've really kicked it up because I'm running an Instagram, and now I'm running a YouTube, and I'm running this great big Facebook group. And I learned everything I knew from the Facebook group. I learned from Cheddar. I learned from, you know, the early people, yourself. You were on board from almost the get-go. And there is a lot of information that I learned 8-9 years ago, which actually now is outdated. We've got better information. Like the Gouda advice has changed completely in the last 3 months. You've got to boil your washing water. You've got to brine it in your cave. You've got to air dry it in your cave. And then you're less likely to have a problem.
And late blowing is the main problem that happens with those low acid cheeses.
And you know, just updating that level of, like, Rachel reads voraciously. So if somebody asks her a question she doesn't know the answer to, she's an expert on that subject within the next, like, 2.5, 3 hours. She'll work it out. I don't have that kind of analytical brain. I need to learn from somebody who's trying to teach me, you know? So initially I looked at University of Vermont artisan cheese and sensory evaluation. I found that really useful when I want to pair cheeses with something. Didn't teach me an awful lot about cheese making that I didn't already know. But the course itself was valuable because A, I got to meet a whole bunch of cheese people, and B, I got to learn more about how to pair things, what kind of things you should pair, what things you shouldn't put together. You know, I found that really helpful. I did Cheese State University. So if you're in the cheese industry in any way, you're a monger, you're a cheesemaker, it's not specifically open to home cheesemakers, but if you teach cheese making or you sell cheese making goods or that kind of thing, you can go to Cheese State University. It's an online course, and at the end of that, you get a certificate to say that you passed Cheese State University, and they send out some killer swag. I just won a cheese board and wine mug, and they send out free cheese to people who are in the group, but only in America, unfortunately.
So is the course open to international students as well?
Yes. It's open to everybody that's in the cheese industry. That's the only thing. You have to prove you work in cheese. So you'd be fine because you own a cheese shop. Whereas somebody who's making cheese at home wouldn't qualify for it. They wouldn't be able to get in. So, I mean, it's a free service run by Wisconsin Cheese, and it's a great program. There's a lot of entry-level information that gets you to where you can confidently speak about how cheese is made. And then there is the Academy of Cheese in the UK. They have a program which is at the moment 3 levels. They're just finishing off the last few modules for level 3. So I've got level 1, which is, again, entry level, basic information about making cheese. Very handy, very easy. I did it in 4 hours, but I've got a fair amount of pre-knowledge. Then level 2 is a lot more involved. It's like college level information. You have to understand things about casein myceles and how they grip together, what coagulants work and how they do. You know, that kind of stuff. It's a more challenging test. But you know, I still passed it first time.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, I'm a level 2 at the moment, and I've got a couple of the modules of level 3 under my belt, and I'm working on. The thing with them is you have a list of 25 cheeses to have tried for the first level. Then there's 75 cheeses you have to try for the second level. And I can't get half of them here.
Yeah, I was going to say, it'd be difficult, unless you're living in the UK or Europe, it'd be extremely difficult to get those cheeses.
It's been challenging, but I've knocked off most of them now. I just had a delivery in from La Liberté Cheese in the Lower Mainland. And she FedExed overnight this massive box of cheeses for me, with all the ones in there that I still need to try from level 2. But level 3 is 200 more cheeses.
Well, on top of the other ones you've already tried.
So you end up knowing all about and having tasted 300 different types of cheese, and they're all cheeses of note. So there's cheeses in there that are cow milk, sheep milk, goat milk, buffalo milk, even yak milk.
Yeah.
And some of the cheeses I can't find, so I've had to make my own. But a lot of them I've managed to ship in. So yeah, learning about 300 different types of cheese when you don't retain information well is interesting. But I take good notes.
Yes, yes, you would have to.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's very informative and it's very helpful to understand different types of cheese and why they do what they do. But then the other side of that is I'm also studying at University of Guelph, which is our premier cheese and dairy industry university in Canada. It's you know, it's our Cornell, basically. Cornell is the gold standard for dairy. And ours is Guelph. And I've done the first module of that. I was able to do that with Lisa, actually. She's just finishing her last module, was my first module, because it's on a cyclical basis.
Right.
And oh my goodness gracious me, that's university level learning right there.
So there's some science there too.
Complex chemistry. I haven't looked at the periodic table in 30 years. You know, I can do CaCl and NaCl, but you want to start talking about free ions and yeah. So that was a curve.
Yeah.
That was definitely a curve, but I loved it. I passed with an A, so I'm more than happy with that. But for me, it's about understanding why we're doing the things. Like, I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, you add calcium chloride because it helps the rennet do its job. And I've been parroting that sentence for the past 8 years. I didn't really know why, and now I do. I didn't really know why we cut the curd. I mean, I know that we cut the curd, and I know we cut the curd differently for harder cheeses than softer cheeses, blah, blah. Didn't know why. All about the surface area. I had no idea. It didn't click in my head that was the thing. So having somebody actually like telling you, this is why we do this. Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. That's what I've been looking for. And between those two courses, I've found all of that information is really well covered.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to learn via reading books, and I've got about 50 cheese books now from various authors and from various levels of skill. And I think one of the better ones is the one from Giannicholas Caldwell, the Mastering Artisan Cheese Making, where she goes into a lot of depth. She I don't know whether she had a hand writing that or she did it all herself, but it is extremely detailed. So and it explains exactly what you're talking about there. But yeah, that's how I've gained most of my knowledge, plus doing and learning on the go. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, so that well done on getting some further education on cheese making, Tracey.
Yeah, I'm just trying to have some credentials, because it's great that I run the biggest group in the world with help, but nobody in the cheese world knows who I am or what I do, because they don't look up how to make cheese. They already know how to do it. They're already doing it. So yeah, it's credibility for me more than anything else. Yeah,
I didn't go down that path. I actually had a guy called Charles come around about 2 months ago from Malta. I can't remember if I shared this, and he said that he went to a cheese shop in Italy, right, just to buy some cheese, as you do when you're in Italy. And he said my videos were playing on a screen in the background. And I'm going, rightio, fair enough. How are they translating that to Italian? But
Was he
apparently
buying Grana?
that's what he told. Maybe it was. Maybe it was the cheese and desist. They're gunning for me. I'll find a horse head in my bed or something soon.
Hey, I mean, it did them a favour as well, because until they came for you, I'd never heard of Grana Badano.
Yeah.
I'd always eat Parmigiano Reggiano because that's the king, you know.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of Grana. So it didn't do them any harm at all.
No, true. But they did backpedal rather quickly.
Funny that.
Once it got onto Reddit, that's the Redditors, the cheese making Redditors went crazy. And I think that they must have sent hundreds of emails to the consorzio. You did too. Oh, okay. Oh,
you held
right.
up the letter and it had their email address right there.
Yes. I posted that online for a reason. Because I knew something, you know, internet drama. Everybody loves a bit of internet drama. And I thought this cheesemaker's got a bit of drama, so why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that helped. And I couldn't believe within 24 hours of receiving the first letter, I got a second one. So that was interesting. But yeah, I still haven't taken them up on their offer of going around the Grana Badano factory. So that'd be interesting too, if I could ever make it to Italy. But yeah, that's fantastic. And you do. I don't know if it's a personal thing to get that sort of, I don't know, not accreditation. No, that's not the word I'm looking for. Something like that anyway. To get that feeling that you know what you're talking about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's imposter syndrome is big.
That's what it is. That's what I was trying to say. Yes.
Imposter syndrome for sure. I mean, at Milkmaids, I'm sitting there with people who, you know, one of them works at Kato Corner Farm. She's the head cheesemaker in their pasteurized division. And she's doing this at a top level. This is, you know, serious. And then some of them are mongers. They've never made cheese in their life. And some of them are farmers and homesteaders and, you know, that kind of thing. But it was just kind of trying to find a community. And I think that this was the first one. I don't know if there's going to be any more. But it was an excuse for me to go and meet Rachel and Heather, and I always wanted to. It was another excuse for me to go to New York City, which I've always wanted to see.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had a jolly good time. We met with a guy called Joe Salonia, who on Instagram you'll find as Sting Chef. He works for Gourmino.
Right.
And we had a meeting with this guy in a coffee shop, and he's a very small guy. He's very unassuming. And he stands there and he pulls out a cooler and starts handing us pieces of cheese. And all three of us just took them straight away. Like, this guy got a blue cheese and he got the scrapey knife and he smeared it on my hand like caviar.
Right.
In a cafe in New York City.
Yeah.
And this total strangers handing you these fabulous cheeses. And yeah, again, this was Rachel. She set everything up. So, if you're going to New York City, my top tip is take Rachel with you.
Nice.
She's a great facilitator. It's fabulous.
Lovely. So did you feel like an imposter after you got back from the cheese ladies of cheese?
I think it's going to always be a thing, because I learned on the internet, you know, until I actually got level 2 Academy of Cheese. And I'm like, okay, this is a serious level of knowledge. Now I do know this stuff. I have known this stuff. I didn't know necessarily why I was doing this stuff, but, you know,
but you knew it.
Thought that out.
Yeah.
But I knew it. Yeah. We've got some policies in group Learn to Make Cheese where we tell people throw that cheese away. It's got holes in. And I hate doing that. It's my least favorite part. It's like, I'm looking at this and I know it's got coliform. I know there's poop in there somewhere and I don't want you to get sick. It's probably fine, but I wouldn't risk it. And also, nobody wants to get sued.
No, that's right. I give the same advice when people send stuff in the gallery. If it looks like a sponge, throw it away. And especially if you didn't introduce any gas-producing culture, sure sign. And especially with early blown, which I'm not sure why people do it, that they use raw milk straight away in their cheese making journey, and then get discouraged. And then they get discouraged because they end up with a cheese that looks like a sponge, or it has off tastes, or they've used raw milk but used the same amount of culture as they should for pasteurized milk. Whereas if you've been making cheese for a little while, you halve it, right? Because it's already got native flora in it. And and it still works. It does its thing. But so
I use my raw goat's milk on occasion. Most often I will LT it because I'm not getting enough to make a cheese. I get about 3 litres a day. I'm not making a 3-litre cheese. I haven't got the time. So I save it for a couple of days in the fridge. You can't save raw milk in the fridge for a couple of days and then use it for cheese. It's just
it acidifies too quickly. Yeah.
Well, what's in there is the natural bacteria actually start working, and the cold-loving bacteria are the ones that are going to make you sick.
Yeah.
But they're still working while it's in the fridge. But the good bacteria that would protect it if it was being clabbered, for instance, on a countertop.
Yeah, room temperature.
Room temp, would protect it. And they can't because they're sleeping at fridge temperatures. So again, learning the science behind some of that's been really helpful for me to get my head around. Yes, your granny used to do this stuff, but she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
Like you were saying with Dan earlier, your cheesemakers might be doing a thing instinctively and they wouldn't necessarily write it down and explain that to the other. Teaching has taught me a lot about what people assume.
Yeah.
Nowadays, when I want them to check the temperature of their milk, I say to them, please check the temperature of your milk, not please check your temperature because somebody did.
Right. Of their own
in a
body.
cheese glass.
Right, as you would.
Put the thermometer right there in his mouth, in a cheese glass. Like, okay, well, I care about your well-being.
Sure he wasn't larking around?
Yeah.
Possibly.
It was interesting. So the things that you have to say emphatically, you find a lot more when you're teaching people who don't know what they're doing. So that's a learning experience for me as well. That's been really helpful.
Step by step when you're teaching people who, I try to take it to the low. That's what I do with all my videos as well, as you well know. Lowest common denominator. So anybody who's never made cheese, but they go, oh, I want to try Domiati, for instance, right? I try to make it as simple, without too much science, that just follow the steps and you can't go too wrong, really. And make it that simple. But like you said, if you want to get into education as far as cheese making goes, there is a wealth of places you can do stuff like that. So well done. Right, we only got 5 minutes left, Tracey. We've been talking for 55 minutes. That's incredible. Do you have any words of encouragement, and you probably do, for all the newbies out there who have never made cheese before, but are wanted to give it a go, and they're sitting on the fence? What are you going to say to them?
Okay, so the biggest thing that's stopping you is fear. You're worried that you're going to kill someone. You're worried you're going to hurt someone or make somebody sick.
Or yourself.
Or yourself, It's really, really obvious. Most of the time, if you've got a problem with your cheese, it's obvious. I would say we're having a challenge on Learn to Make Cheese in a couple of weeks. It's a few days before Christmas, and we're making yesterday's, so it will be ready by Christmas.
Yep.
Jump on that challenge. I will hold your hand, walk you through it. Because that's what Learn to Make Cheese is there for. We volunteer at least 3 hours a day of our time to help people. And because we're in different places, there's geographically almost always somebody on the admin or expert team that's awake where you are when you're having a cheese crisis. So just get on with it. Go and grab yourself a jug of milk, get yourself some yogurt, pick up some rennet from your local health food store, or shop at one of the many flyers of rennet on the internet.
Well done.
And give it a go, because it's just literally milk and cultures and rennet and salt. It's a food you can make at home yourself. It's 0 miles. In my case specifically, it's 0 miles. My goats are about 100 yards away from me right now. That doesn't go anywhere until I've made it into cheese, and then I take it around to give it to all my friends.
Nice.
So you've got access to milk readily available most of the time. There are some people who have challenges with that, but we do the best we can to help them. And I think you should just get on with it. Give it a go.
Give it a go. Even if it's the simplest cheese on the planet, which is one of the reasons I've been doing all these really easy cheeses lately, because I kind of got into a, not a rut, that I had to make a complex cheese. Now that would
Yeah.
to do the next cheese, make it a harder one. And
Outdo yourself at the
I would,
time.
myself to challenge myself, but I was forgetting people who hadn't made cheese before. So I found that they're very well received, which is really good. So
Yeah, and it's
never forget your roots. Yeah. Mate, where can people find you on the interwebs besides the Learn to Make Cheese Facebook group?
Yeah, so on YouTube, you can find me at Cheese Needs DOTCOM. You're not allowed to put .com, apparently.
Right.
My business is cheeseneeds.com. So if you're in Canada or North America, then I'm probably faster at shipping than Gavin. If you're down under, obviously, go and ship with Gav. Yep. And Instagram, Cheese Needs on Instagram.
Very good. Thank you very much for your time. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time today, mate. And sorry about the late notice. And I'm glad you came on board because
no problem. I will talk to you any day, any week.
You're a lovely lady. Thank you. Thanks, Tracy. And have a great time. And hopefully maybe you'll be able to ease off on some of the workshops as business picks up on the YouTubes.
Yeah, well, I'm having December off from workshops. I've got one live appearance at Winterfest in Prince George, but that's just a craft fair type thing, so it's not going to be high energy. But congratulations again on your 300.
Thank you.
From everybody in the cheese making community, you've helped us all at one point or another, so a huge thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate it. All right, mate. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers.